The news, the Energy Minister Gwede Mantashe has told delegates at the Green Hydrogen Conference in Cape Town that moving away from coal will take lots of money. He says this is taking the country's coal turnover into account.
Development Congress gave us $8.5 billion to move to just energy transition. And to them that was a lot of money. And we converted it at the point, it's more than that now. It was 131 billion rand. That is 2021. In 2021, coal mining, not mining, coal mining, turnover was 130 billion rand. And therefore we raised it to our colleagues and say, but colleagues, you want us to move out of coal for a 1 billion rand difference.
Mantashe also pointing out that Eskom's problems are more about energy transmission challenges rather than generation issues, meaning, he says, that there are megawatts that are not entering the grid.
I don't know if you are aware of Bid Window 6. In Bid Window 6, we had 4,200 megawatts ready, but only 1,000 could get into the transmission because there was no transmission capacity. Meaning that we're having 3,200 megawatts idling. That is a sign of transmission problems. Number two, we want to allow RFP request for proposal for gas, 3,000 megawatts of gas in Mukha. We can't authorize that because Eskom is not ready in terms of transmission capacity.
Well, other issues coming out of that, the Minister of Electricity, also addressing the Green Energy Summit this morning on powering the future and the hydrogen revolution. And then it appears Mantashe has repeated his comments that he's made several times that NGOs which oppose the use of fossil fuels should declare their sources of funding. In some cases, as you might know, the Minister of Mineral Resources and Energy saying over the last few months that he believes some NGOs are working against South Africa's sovereignty. Dr Roland Ngam is the Programme Manager for Climate Justice and Socio-Ecological Transformation at the Rosa Luxemburg Foundation. Dr Ngam, good evening to you and thank you for your time. We see the Minister, Gwede Mantashe, making the statement, he's made it several times over the last little while, that NGOs have a, I suppose the word would be an ulterior motive, a nefarious purpose. They're working against the people of South Africa for foreign interests. How do you respond to that?
Well, good evening, Stephen, and good evening to all the viewers. Well, you see, I think we have reached the tipping point with the major climate catastrophes that we see all around the world. At the same time, Gwede Mantashe is a wily politician. He's a very good vote counter, if you will. And Mantashe can see very well that trade unions are not very happy with the way in which the just transition process is unfolding in South Africa. We can see as well that in some fora, he has fingered, for example, an NGO, I'm not going to mention the name, and claimed that they received money from the George Soros Foundation. Be that as it may, a lot of the challenges really in South Africa at the moment have to do with the transmission lines. And even if we had capacity coming online, becoming available, we will still have transmission problems. And so the challenge really is to focus on Eskom, on Eskom's capacity, rather than going after some of these NGOs.
So I imagine as a minister who appears to believe that fossil fuels still have a future, as I think Mantashe does, certainly based on what he says in public, it would appear that he does. It must be frustrating to be taken to court all the time whenever you're looking for what you believe are more sites of energy, whether they be just offshore or actually on our land, and to lose. I mean, bluntly, why do NGOs do this, especially NGOs that may have foreign funding?
I think really, even without the foreign funding, remember that we have a chapter in the Constitution which says that South Africans have a right to a clean and undamaged environment. We also have to understand that there are major challenges with transforming the economy, and many of these NGOs really are advancing agendas that the government should adopt. Let's look at what has happened in South Africa in recent months, the revolution that has happened. 4,400 megawatts of clean energy installed. But unfortunately, a lot of this being installed by the upper middle class and the richer South Africans. Now, what happens to the poorer communities? It is very clear that clean energy is cheap. It is very clear that Eskom does not have the resources to roll out coal capacity. And so we really need to be embracing the agenda that some of these NGOs are advancing. Embrace their agenda and really set out a clear plan. Maybe that will comfort all parties that we are all on the same page.
So the issue then is, I mean, you're trying to do what many organizations in society try to do. You try to change the minds of people, and that's sort of a political function. It's also your right. You know, everyone has a right to try and do that. And whether people accept your argument or not, you know, there's a different issue. But in the end, what are you trying to do? You say you're trying to basically save the country for future generations. I mean, I suppose that would be your argument. It seems that Mantashe sees it in a very different way. Does it worry you that he sees it so differently to the way that you see it?
Well, for now, no, because fortunately nobody has been arrested. Nobody has been really blacklisted and things like that. One thing is very clear. Many communities around the country are nervous. Mantashe, like I mentioned at the top of the interview, is a wily politician. He understands that the hundreds and thousands of energy sector workers are understandably nervous. But at the same time, the majority of South Africans can see the number of rooftop PV systems that are going up, and they can see that this is the future. And so we need to continue to speak our truth loudly and clearly, but also very patiently. This is something also that I should caution people who lash out very angrily at Mantashe and others. Let us be very clear about the agenda. Let us roll out the science and let the people decide.
Dr Roland Ngam, thank you, Program Manager for Climate Justice and Socio-Ecological Transformation at the Rosa Luxemburg Foundation.